A lot of stuff, interesting stuff there from Troy Dannen yesterday at his introductory press conference as Nebraska's new AD. Talked a lot about advocating for not just the University of Nebraska, but the student athletes as well. He said something early in his statement, and I think you know how my mind works a little bit, so I'm guessing you have an idea where I'm going with this, but we'll give it a shot here. One of the first things he said was everyone in this athletic department is here for the good of the student athletes, not for the good of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think I took away from that?
You thought he was talking about Trev.
I did, in fact, think he was taking
You
a
know
little
what
shot
was
at
funny
Trev.
though is Trev said the same thing.
Yeah, but actions and words.
You don't think okay. So you don't think for however long until he left,
Mm-hmm.
you don't think Trev was for the good of the student athletes?
I think a lot of the stuff he did was for the good of his student athletes. I think
See,
there
we're not,
were
this is the part that I
no. Hold
struggle
on,
with
hold
because
on.
no, hey, you asked me the question,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
All right, so just let me finish this,
All right.
and then we go back and we take current
Mm-hmm.
evidence to go back and look at past actions. He's only gonna get a few vantage points of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So real time, he's getting secondhand information
Mm-hmm.
or third hand information.
Sure.
So I don't really allow myself to go there.
So let me frame that same situation differently.
Okay.
I look at it as now we know more about Trev than we did before.
Okay.
Does that reshape any of the things that he did in my mind? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but I think it's fair to look back and say, hey, we got new information. Because here's an example, right? We heard a lot about the stadium project yesterday. Well, he was asked a lot about the stadium project. We didn't actually hear that much.
We definitely know that there were two sticking points.
Yes, stadium project for sure.
Stadium project and the alignment of the infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Trev apparently like you could just like he apparently didn't want to play the political game.
Yes, and there are, and I don't know how valid this is. I have heard from people that usually know these types of things
Mm-hmm.
that there was a ton of contention over Trev's plans for the stadium project,
Mm-hmm.
and that a lot of people viewed it more as a vanity project for Trev to say, look what I got done, as opposed to something that, like, don't get me wrong, the stadium needs updated, right? Like, I don't think anybody's arguing with that. But this specific plan, this $500 million plan that Trev put out there, a lot of people believed that it was a vanity project. And then you hear something like this and it says, okay, are there updates needed to the stadium? Absolutely. That's what Troy said.
100%. I could see how we put two and two together. That's very
Is that fair?
super plausible, super legit. Which is significant. See, words matter and they're important.
Mm-hmm.
So, like the first thing you said elicited
the
first response.
Yeah.
The second thing that you said, which was pretty well thought out.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, because I kind of agree with you. Because as I kind of look at this whole thing,
mm-hmm.
and the last couple of days, when Trev was here, and he was in Omaha, and he was with Christensen, kind of just looking at all. Remember, I told the story like they were kind of just looking at all the things that have been built and the growth of the campus,
Mm-hmm.
and went by that went by the ballpark and the athletic facility, and it got me thinking yesterday. And I knew he was a visionary, and I said this before or a couple weeks ago. He likes projects. He likes casting visions, right? And so maybe for him, his stamp on
he wanted to make his mark.
His legacy was through the stadium project.
Yeah, he wanted to make his mark.
So I'll more than entertain that.
Yeah.
But let's not act. What I didn't want to do is say, you know what, like the stadium project wouldn't have been good ultimately for everybody. The price tag was exorbitant.
I think there's a version of the stadium project that is good.
So
for
what were we? So this is why I give pushback.
Yeah,
because it's not even. There's a fine line between, because somebody said this yesterday about the Dodgers. Was it Derry? Somebody said, well, you sound like a Dodger defender. And I'm like, It doesn't even have anything to do with the Dodgers. Like
When we were
I
talking
didn't
about Shohei.
Shohei.
Yeah.
I didn't even bring up the Dodgers. What I like to do is I'm not just gonna be like, oh, okay, yeah. What I'd like to do is, well, it could be this, it could be this. Let me think about this and then arrive at what I think it is. So I ask for people to do that too, because I want you to be like, don't be a sheep.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be a sheep. Because in one vein, we say, oh, can't trust the media, can't trust the media. They'll tell us anything. And then the minute we pump something out, like we take this like word is bond.
Yeah.
So like
it's also very funny who we consider the media and not the media, but that's a different story for a different day.
This is so where I'm going with this is, but I don't want to act like it wasn't about student athletes, because it 100% was.
Sure.
And the other thing is what were we thinking? Was he just pulling the wool over our eyes?
Who, Trev?
And we allowed it when he was sending out like focus groups and gathering information on what we wanted to see happen with the stadium project? Because this is what drives me crazy. After yesterday, we're like, oh man, Trev is selfish. Trev is selfish. Okay, let's say you're right. Ravi, you're 100% right. The innuendos, it was a one-man gang. Were we just going along with what we wanted to see happen differently in the stadium? Now we joke about Wi-Fi. We used to bitch about Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Now we're like, maybe we don't want to be displaced. We don't want smaller seats. But we used to say 4 years ago, it was, well, people aren't coming to the games because this, and this.
Sure.
No, we sucked, so people weren't coming to the games. But let's not pretend that we weren't in on stadium renovations. We didn't know that it came with that kind of price tag. So then we got the pushback. And once he felt like he was pot committed, maybe he wanted to go through with the idea. Maybe it was personal and he wanted to leave his legacy on the university. But man, I hate when we act like we don't have any culpability. And then we come back and we like sling these arrows of righteousness like we weren't on board. And if in fact we were on board and we got the wool pulled over our eyes, then we, in the same vein that we're poking holes at the guy that left, we should say, you know what? We got to be more educated. We got to be wiser in what we do and what we gravitate towards, because you can't have the goose and kick the gander, right? It's like, it's a two-way street.
Sure.
If the feedback from the focus, all the mailers, hey, I got one. Did you get one? I got one. What'd you fill out? What did you fill out for the we did this.
Yeah.
Right? But we conveniently forget that this happened. And then we say, man, listen, I didn't know this thing was going to be a $450 million price tag. It's probably going to go north of that when they get ready to do this thing. Like, this is a bit too much.
Yeah.
This is a bit too much. Who was asking those questions when we had all of our wants?
Yeah.
I just think that's a fair question to ask. So I don't think I do like the fact, I do love the point that you said we know more information, because I know significantly more information even last night than I did whatever today is,
and I
Monday.
And not just about Trev, but about the whole situation.
But everybody has their personality traits, right?
Sure.
And when we're scheduling, I'll just give you one. Moose, right? Competitive. Take on anybody, play anybody, anytime, anywhere. We were supportive of that. Were we not?
Yeah.
Bring them on. Then we looked at our schedule, and we weren't winning any games.
And we're like, hey, why don't we go get free wins?
So then we cried about the scheduling.
Yeah.
Like, those are the kinds of things that drive me crazy.
So I think a couple of the things can be true at the same time.
Of course, when you want to. I
think that the stadium obviously needs some work put into it, right? Everybody agrees with that. I think the price tag was a big hang up. What I've sort of landed on through some reporting's the wrong word, but looking into it and some sort of just logical deductions here is, it seems like there is a different version of a stadium project that has a much more palatable price tag, that is that would have been less of a vanity project than the one Trev pitch.
Yeah. We're afforded that luxury in the grand scheme of things because we
know more information now.
But it's clear that the lack of functioning capacities behind the scenes and the stadium project were the two sticking issues.
I also don't know that we knew at the time that there was that much contention over the stadium. Because I know from my standpoint, I thought, well, if everybody's on board, I guess this is what's necessary. And maybe that's on me for not digging into it more at the time, but now we know more, so we think a little different.
Which is why I think the governor was there. It's a line.